All right, are you ready to be done with January? I know I am. It's been a long month with a lot of cold air, and we're going to review tonight's, or this month's numbers, I should say, before we move on to the February forecast here on Weather for Weather Geeks on this Friday evening. The final numbers for January, we're going to finish about 5.5 degrees colder than the average. Our coldest January since 2014, our coldest month compared to the average in quite a while. We haven't had a legit colder than average month prior to this month since June of 2023. So it's been about a year and a half since we've had a legit colder than average month. But of course, that was in the summertime. When you have 5.5 degrees below average during climatologically the coldest month of the year, you know it was pretty cold outside. And last week especially was tough with highs in the teens for 3 straight days. But at the end of the month, 4 straight days of warmer than average high temperatures. That was a nice little reprieve. And so today's big number for the season, for meteorological winter, December and January, we're about 1.5 degrees behind the average. We have one more month left to go in meteorological winter. December was about 1.5 degrees above the average. January is going to finish about 5.5 below the average. What about February? That is the big question as we go into the final stages of winter, and it will make or break our winter forecast. Here's a look at the percentage odds of certain outcomes that we put on the winter forecast when we did the update in early December. We did put roughly equal odds, 30%, of it being near average or above average. But right now we're here. Now, we certainly didn't put 0%. In fact, it was the third most likely outcome, colder than average by -1 to -4. That's not where we're going to finish. We're sitting at -1.5 right now. I suspect we'll finish much closer to average and perhaps even we eke out an above average season, just depending on how February shakes out. Our snowfall forecast, as you might remember, we called for the most likely outcome being pretty close to average in terms of snow, with the next most likely outcome being below average, and that's where we are right now. In fact, some local observations here from local weather observers. This number seems a little inflated to me in Hanoverton. Otherwise, it's been pretty common to see 20 to 30 inches of snow in most of the kind of the heart of our viewing area. A little less down towards the Ohio River, down towards East Liverpool. A little bit more, of course, up towards the snow belts. When you start running into these bluish colors up here, you get into the heart of the secondary snow belt, and that's where you've seen 40, 50, even 60 inches worth of snow so far this winter. At the Youngstown Warren Airport, we're a handful of inches behind average for the winter season so far. What about February? No surprises from the Climate Prediction Center today with their final February outlook. This is pretty much the map I expected them to issue, and I agree with it generally speaking. But of course, while February is the shortest month, it's still a month, and not every day is going to look like this. We're going to have a back and forth month, I think, and it's quite possible that the milder periods will outnumber the colder periods, and so the month as a whole will probably shake out as warmer than the average. But there's going to be some cold periods, no doubt. The cold will be most concentrated here in February, we think, in the Pacific Northwest and across the northern plains and up into Canada, of course. Areas that have not had a particularly cold winter so far. Precipitation-wise, again, this is not a surprise what the map looks like. I couldn't have drawn it any differently myself, really. It looks like a pretty active storm track with the jet stream blitzing into the Pacific Northwest and low pressure systems riding up like this. Now, occasionally they're going to take a little more of an eastward track, and that would put us in a more favorable spot for some frozen precipitation. But the storms that cut like this are going to tend to drag warm air in, and at the very least, some mixed precipitation and even some rain. And I think, one of the first of that kind of storm is heading our way during the middle of next week, with another one pretty likely, I think, during next weekend. But the one during the middle of next week is going to take a track that is going to be mostly rain for us, even though we might have some freezing rain issues at the start of the day Wednesday, just depending on how much precipitation has arrived when we're still below the freezing mark. In the meantime, of course, today was just as gloomy as it gets. I'll tell you, with the fog and the rain today, yikes, it was dark. Rainfall totals, highest kind of a stripe from 224 down through Salem and Columbiana, a little bit less once you're down towards Hanoverton and Calcutta and Wellsville and East Liverpool, and a little bit less from Youngstown on north into Trumbull and Mercer. About 1/4 of an inch was a little more common there, but pretty much 1/2 an inch from Boardman and Canfield down towards Salem, Damascus, Washingtonville, over towards Columbiana. in East Palestine as well. So it's been a real gloomy one, and if you're out and about on this Friday evening, you're still going to have to be flipping on the wipers. There's not much on the radar, but yeah, there's some light rain and some drizzle still out there. The frozen precipitation is a few hours to our north, and this isn't going to be much, but as this colder air starts making inroads, could there be some snowflakes at the last minute around here late this evening? Possible, yes. Any concern about black ice tonight? I've gotten a few questions on social media. In my estimation, it's a small concern, mostly because it doesn't drop way below freezing. We don't see the mid-20s until 4 or 5, even 6 hours after the precipitation will have ended. Now, it's going to slip below freezing down to 31, 30, 29 as early as 2 or 3 in the morning. But when you have a lot of black ice issues, typically you see temperatures, road temperatures and air temperatures, dropping quickly through the 20s, kind of shortly after precipitation ends, and I just kind of think there's enough of a lag tonight that I'm not real concerned about it. Did you catch this on the radar earlier on today? We had a few lightning strikes in Pennsylvania from Lawrence County and down towards Pittsburgh on east. Yeah, a few lightning strikes, even though it was murky and foggy and the air in the lowest level of the atmosphere was very stable. It was unstable up a few thousand feet above our heads. It was unstable enough that some lightning did occur in places like Indiana, Pennsylvania, Johnstown, over towards Altoona and State College as well. All right, our weekend forecast tomorrow, thankfully, is going to be a better looking day, but grab that winter jacket, so you'll need it. It's going to be a distinctly colder day tomorrow. We're going to be hard-pressed to get out of the 20s despite a full afternoon, a full supply, I should say, of afternoon sunshine. The clouds roll back in ahead of a warm front on Sunday. This will be a gloomier day, but at least we'll get into the 40s on Sunday. This advancing warm front might produce a rain shower or two Sunday afternoon. That shouldn't be a big deal. And then Monday, it's kind of like most of Sunday, just kind of cloudy and ho-hum, uneventful, relatively mild. We'll get well up into the 40s midday and afternoon on our Monday. So weekend forecast looks like this as far as the specifics: 29 tomorrow, and we're looking for about 43 on Sunday. Once we get above freezing for daytime highs on Sunday, I don't think we see below average, or below freezing, I should say, high temperatures again for a little while. It may be about a week or so. In the meantime, it's a roller coaster over the next week or so. We're going to cool down Tuesday into Wednesday, warm back up Wednesday night into Thursday. In fact, we might get into the 50s, maybe even flirting with 60 in some parts of the area Thursday afternoon. Might be some rare February thunderstorms depending on the timing of that next front. If the front decides to cross the area during the middle of the afternoon, maybe there's even a gusty thunderstorm somewhere across Ohio and western PA. But then a cool down follows. This is next Friday, and you can see the colder air bleeding east. And I think this will be around probably for that second weekend of February and probably even a few days beyond that. I do think that things will start to warm back up again. After Valentine's Day, there's some chatter on weather Twitter and other online weather forums and communities about perhaps the polar vortex splitting at some point in February, and if that were to occur, it might or might not drop a bunch of cold air down into North America before mid-February is through. I'm taking all of that with a grain of salt right now, predicting what we call a sudden stratospheric warming or a split, a breaking apart of the polar vortex. The models are notoriously bad at that, so human forecasters, that the science of predicting that more than a handful of days ahead of time, human forecasters and weather models, we all struggle with it. So if it were to happen, it would raise the possibility that there's some sort of Arctic attack in February, but not every polar vortex split or sudden stratospheric warming event results in the cold dumping into North America. Sometimes the cold gets dumped out over the ocean or on the other side of the pole. So that's all speculation at this point, but it's something we'll be certainly watching. It could have an impact on us at some point in February if it were to occur. So stay tuned on that. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching Weather for Weather Geeks tonight and all week long. I'll see you back here on Monday.